This sugar cookie icing is super easy to make. It takes about 5 minutes to whip it all together. It's so much easier than royal icing, and it goes beautifully on your cookies for the holidays. Hi, I'm Lindsay from Life, Love, and Sugar, and today we're making an easy sugar cookie icing. All right, so to get started making the icing, we'll grab our powdered sugar. We're gonna add our corn syrup to the powdered sugar. Some vanilla extract for flavor. And we're gonna add 4 tablespoons of milk. We can add more later if we need to, but we're just gonna start with 4 tablespoons. We're just gonna whisk all this together. It may seem a little dry and crumbly at first, but it'll come together. And then as we need to, we can add more milk and thin it out. You don't want to add too much up front because you can't take it out. You can always add more. I like to make it so that it's a consistency that I can use both for lining my cookies and flooding them. So I want it thin enough to flood my cookies, but thick enough to stay in place for when I'm lining them. So what we're looking for is as you drizzle this icing back into itself, you want it to kind of become part of the icing again within about 3 or 4 seconds. If it holds its shape longer for that, then it's probably still too thick. Now that we've got this at the right consistency, we're going to divide this into a few different bowls, and all that depends really on how many colors you're going to use for your cookies. I have 4 colors, but one of them is white. So we're going to put some white into a bowl, and then we'll divide the rest between the other 3 bowls. Now for coloring your icing, you really do want to stick with gel icing colors, not food coloring. These are much thicker, so they're not going to thin out your icing too much. You can get a nice vibrant color without thinning out the icing. Food coloring, you're going to have to add too much in order to get a vibrant color. So stick with gel icing colors. There's several brands available. You don't really need a whole lot, especially because we're not working with large amounts of icing here. So get a nice vibrant red for our candy canes. We'll get that stirred in there. Now we can make our green. Oh, that went right in there. Got our green. So for the gingerbread man, I like to use a little bit of copper and a little bit of brown. So we'll start by adding the copper. And just a touch of brown. It just kind of softens the copper color just a little bit. All right, so now we've got our coppery gingerbread man color ready to go. So you can add your icing colors to squeeze bottles, which makes them really easy to use and flood cookies with. You can also use piping bags with small piping tips. You could even use a Ziploc bag. So whatever you have, feel free to use. Now because I only have 2 squeeze bottles, I am going to use a piping bag for the red. So I have a coupler. I'm going to put on my icing tip, secure that on there. And I'll add the red icing. I'm going to fold this up so the icing doesn't drip out of the tip while I'm adding it. And maybe we'll start with the Christmas tree. Now one thing to note about these icings is they do dry out. So if they're sitting for a while, you may want to put a paper towel over them and kind of dribble some water over top so you've got a moist towel over it, keeping it from drying out while you're working. Now if at any point you find you have some little imperfections or you don't like the way something is looking on your cookie, you can actually use a toothpick and just kind of spread it around to make a straighter line or help fill something in. The toothpicks can be really helpful with that. Whenever you're done decorating your cookies, go ahead and let them sit for a while and let the icing harden. You will be able to stack them once it does. And then you can plate them, get them ready for your guests. They're perfect for the holidays. I know everyone will love them. For the full recipe, head over to lifeloveandsugar.com.